The Art Beat, a weekly program putting you in touch with artists and arts events from the J.T. and Margaret Talkington College of Visual and Performing Arts at Texas Tech University. Hello, and welcome to this week's Art Beat on KLZK-FM 105.7, coming to you from the Talkington College of Visual and Performing Arts. I'm your host, Peter Martins. Good to be with you on this lovely weekend in spring. And I'm here talking with a very special guest today, not a regular Texas Tech faculty member, Professor Jim Wren. Hello.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Thanks for being here. And why are you here is probably people's first question, and that is connected with the show in the theater, School of Theater Dance that's coming up very quickly, Sweeney Todd.
Sure. I've been asked to serve as the guest director for the production of Sweeney Todd, which is a collaboration between the School of Music and the School of Theater and Dance. So I've been here for several weeks serving in that capacity.
Well, great. Welcome to Lubbock. I imagine we're actually going to be saying farewell to you somewhat soon because the show opens in not that long of a time, right?
Right. It opens on Thursday, April 16th, and it's a double cast show. So we'll be alternating casts each evening. So I'll see the Thursday night performance, the Friday night performance, and then I'll be taking off to go back to North Carolina Saturday morning.
Okay, and then there's another performance Saturday and Sunday matinee, I imagine?
Yes.
And then the same run the following weekend. So you have two opportunities to see the show in terms of weekends, I guess.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, wonderful. So really the 16th through the 26th as the full date run. Well, I'm glad you could be here, certainly, to launch this. It's a special collaboration. There's lots to talk about there. But first, you mentioned going back to North Carolina. So tell us a bit about what you've been doing before you came here to guest direct this show, and what about North Carolina?
I was at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, and I served as the head of the performance area where I ran the MFA acting program for the past, almost 35 years. And I just recently retired, so I've been open up to do projects like this. I've actually had a bit of a history with Texas Tech through the Wild Wind Performance Lab in the summers.
Okay.
I started coming here in 2018 as a guest artist, and then in 2020, Brian Quijada and I stepped into the roles of co-artistic directors. So we curated that program since 2020. And so I've always enjoyed my time here in Lubbock and working with the students and guest artists and faculty here. It's been a terrific experience.
So the School of Theater Dance here has been on your radar for a while.
It has.
You wanted to come when the weather wasn't quite so hot, I think, is usually...
Right. June for Wild Wind is always an adventure. That's
right. Well, and I know in these past weeks that you've been here, you've experienced all four seasons, I think.
I have. I'm now regretting I packed all these sweaters.
Right. Yeah. Maybe 1 or 2 days in there you needed to wear them all.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, it's fascinating to me working with faculty across the college here for several years, and especially in the School of Theater and Dance, where I know one of the challenges of some of the theater faculty, the playwriting faculty, those sorts of folks is they're tied to campus because of regular instruction, right? They're teaching courses, they're seeing students all the time. But at the same time, the profession involves doing kind of what you're doing for us here is traveling around, directing, staging, costuming maybe in some cases. So how did you find throughout your own professional life before you were able to just kind of, gallivant off to Lubbock to guest direct a show? How did you balance that for your own career as a faculty member?
It's always a difficult balance. There's a give and a take. I mean, I was always obviously heavily involved in our program, and so I never wanted to take an extended periods away. So I would try to find projects that allowed, maybe they covered over a break, or I had a later semester where I could use some of my graduate assistants to cover classes like that. But as a director, it's tough. Same as an actor, because you're committed for a much longer period of time. My good friend and former colleague, who was a lighting designer, could take other jobs in a more compressed period of time because he would be able to work from home, basically, to work in the designs and Teams meetings and FedExing things back and forth, and then going for the short period of time with a tech rehearsal. So that could be a 10-day commitment for him, whereas directing a show like this for me is a 7-week commitment.
Sure.
So that was always a tough balance.
Okay. So you're saying actors they require more time and attention than lighting fixtures.
Don't tell the lighting designers that, but your long-term commitment is a little bit different. But no, I think that all faculty in higher ed in the performing arts deals with that decision-making of where you can make those commitments and feel that you're giving enough of yourself and not cheating both.
Right.
That's the hardest thing, where you can live in a bit of guilt, where I'm not serving my students the way I'd like to, and then I'm not devoting full attention to this project. So
Right.
you blame yourself.
Well, and it sounds like you have an existence there where you never really have a vacation. You never have a break.
Right.
You're either teaching, pouring into the students, or you're taking these projects during the breaks.
Right. And I think that's the thing, for a career in the performing arts, there is always that, what I refer to as a treadmill of the next project. What's going to be the next project? How can I prepare for that? How can I get ready? Because the moment the show closes, there's the next thing on the agenda, whether it's your classes or your own artistic development, your own workshops, and any of that. There's always something happening.
Right. Well, gosh, that's a fascinating existence, and maybe you're really happy at this point to be beyond that into this new phase of just getting to do projects that you really are choosing.
Right. The treadmill has slowed down.
Okay, there you go.
Quite a bit. So my family is definitely happy about that.
Excellent. Well, we'll thank them on the air here for sharing you with us. So tell us about the show a bit. Sweeney Todd, I think it was done in town maybe 10 or 15 years ago, most recently.
I think so. Sweeney Todd is considered by most Sondheim's greatest musical. Multiple productions of it over the years. I mean, I think it debuted in '79 in New York, and then in 1980 in London, and then it's just had numerous revivals. And so if you look across the musical theater actors or actors in general, that seems to be a bucket list show for people. I'd love to do Sweeney Todd.
To do something in it.
So it's really a terrific piece of theater. Over 80% of the show is sung. So it's some purely opera programs have staged it as well, because it's such a challenging music.
In fact, I think that's the context in which it was last done on the Texas Tech campus, was actually by the opera program, which officially, I guess, kind of lives in the School of Music rather than the School of Theater Dance.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And there was obviously a movie version of it that came out not that many years ago. So it's obviously in that short list of musicals that make it to that level of recognition.
Absolutely.
Despite it having some above average challenging subject matter, at least for certain viewers.
Yes, it's definitely not Seussical, the musical. So when you're dealing with the original source material being the penny dreadfuls of the Victorian period, where the gore and the horror was paramount. This is a bloody show. Not in a particularly graphic, violent sense, but the subject matter itself is just obviously very, very violent.
Right. And the dark comedy that comes from that.
Right. That's always the balance. How as a director, I always focus on how you create this world. What is the world you're looking to create? What are the theatrical rules of this world that we get to explore?
So have you done Sweeney Todd before yourself? Is this kind of a bucket list show for you as a director?
I've worked on several productions. I've never directed it, but I've staged the violence for a number of the shows.
Okay.
That's another specialty of mine, where I'm a fight choreographer as well. So I've done the violence and the blood for different productions over the years.
Okay. So in this case, relatively less fighting, I think, if I remember the show well enough, and relatively more effects.
Right, exactly.
Fascinating. Okay, so your approach here, are there opportunities or limitations based on the Magen Theater stage that you're using for it?
Not necessarily. I mean, every space you go into, you look at all the features of it, and then try to figure out the best way to adapt what you want to do within the confines of that place. So Magen's a beautiful space. So yes. It's really nice to look at different ways to use it, and it's never anything that's we can't do this now, or we can't do that. I mean, like with anything, that Sweeney Todd could be performed in Carnegie Hall on a Broadway stage in a very small community theater space. Sure. You just have to look at how you create your own theatrical world within that facility.
Okay. I imagine as long as you don't get blood coming off stage onto the nice upholstery or anything like that.
Well, that is something I was warned about. But I did a production of Evil Dead, the musical, several years ago.
I didn't know that existed.
It's terrific. And we actually made quite a bit of money on the side by selling parkas to the people in the audience. So if they were splattered with blood, they wouldn't get their clothes stained.
Their nice theater wear stained.
Right.
Wow, that's fascinating. So you mentioned that this is a collaboration, and really maybe the first official wonderful kind of production collaboration between the School of Theater Dance and the School of Music.
Right.
Where are your personnel coming from?
Well, the cast is a mix of theater dance students and music students, and then on the music side of things, the conductor, the accompanist, the orchestra is all coming from the School of Music, the music director, the music supervisor, the chorus master, and then all of the technical design support is coming from the School of Theater and Dance. So the lighting design, stage management, the production crews, all the tech staff is coming from theater and dance.
Wonderful. And it may be that the audience doesn't recognize how significant or exciting, to me at least, that this is. It's kind of a known issue around the country, really, maybe even around the world, where large institutions, academic institutions, there's always this division, right? And
Right.
Oftentimes it falls that music theater goes with theater dance, opera goes with music, and ne'er the twain shall meet, right? And that's really unfortunate. So I think we have a special opportunity here, and I'm glad you're part of bringing it together.
Right. There can be a tendency in higher ed, especially I think, to silo programs with it because and we're all trying to do quite a bit for everyone.
Sure.
So it can be easy to just kind of tie down, we can't get involved in that because we've got X, Y, and Z. And that is one of the challenges that we're addressing as we go along of all the other commitments for everyone, all the students, the staff as well, how much, as you indicated, how much of a workload this actually is. Directing a play or being in a play or being the music director of a play isn't just going to class Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Right.
It's being here 5 or 6 nights a week from 6:30 to 10, in addition to the rest of your course load.
Right. That reminds me of an observation that I guess I've had myself and heard sometimes that, schools of theater dance doing musicals, it's amazing lighting and choreography and dancing, but the singing is so-so. And then on the other side, School of Music mounting an opera, the singing is wonderful, but it's a park and bark situation, right? There's no blocking. There's the choreography isn't there. The lighting isn't great. And the set and costumes aren't great. So I don't really think that that's been true here at Texas Tech in my experience, but I'm excited that we're kind of going to get the best of everything in this show.
Right, and that's I think that's one of the goals, to really get the students working with each other, getting to know each other, getting those kind of cross program collaborations going with faculty. And so this is hopefully the first of many of these collaborations.
Right. And you alluded to it. I think there are structural problems here as well. Like I'm a music faculty member and I'm contributing heavily lots of time to this production in theater. Do I get credit for that, so to speak? Like, is that counted as part of my workload? It's we put up these kind of barriers institutionally for this sort of work all the time.
And that's the nice thing, is being a guest artist, is I can throw my hands up and say, I don't know.
Not my problem.
Right.
Interesting. So tell me about, I know before you hit campus, the students involved in the production had been doing some rehearsing and such already. What have you found working with the students at Texas Tech?
I've always loved working with the students here. Rehearsals began before I came. I was involved, I was directing another production actually in North Carolina that opened after the rehearsals started. So even when we negotiated this last summer, that was on the horizon, that this was going to be happening this way. And it works for a show like this because then that allowed them to have the opportunity to spend those first 3 weeks solely in music rehearsals.
Okay.
And so, what's been great is that, and technology changes things too, because, if this were 25 years ago, they'd be, here's your hard copy of the music, go pound it out on a piano. And now, you're provided with apps that will play the accompaniment for you. You can go to measures, you can hear your part, you can work. So the students were taught and were coached by the folks in music, and then given that opportunity to continue to follow up on it. And then when I arrived, we could begin the character work and the staging, and then the music rehearsals continued as we played chess, trying to figure out, I could use these people here tonight so that they can go work here and work that. That's the biggest challenge, especially with a double cast show like this, is just the logistical aspect of looking at what we need to accomplish, how much time we have, and then how do you provide the equal opportunity for both casts. It's not an understudy situation where you're saying, here, and now we're going to let you walk it, so in case you get put in. This is a new cast of all principals each night. So the ensemble is constant. Okay. And then the principals, so there are 9-10 principals that are double cast.
Gotcha. Okay.
So what we try to do then is provide. So we call them Razor Cast and the Sheer Cast. So now we'll go. Okay, Razor, it's you. And so that cast goes up and we'll run things, work things, have the other cast watch that as well, and then trade off. And they're responsible for their own character development. I'm not insisting that they play the exact same character, but obviously in a machine of a show like this, the blocking is going to have to stay the same.
Sure,
you have to hit the mark where the blood's going to be. You have to,
right.
you have to fall down the chute when you're dead at this point.
Right.
So those can't change. But then within that, the character dynamic is really up to the actor to see how they're focusing, and that's what's been fun to see as the rehearsals are progressing, of the nice subtle shifts and details of what each of the students are bringing.
Oh, good. Well, gosh, I'd love to ask you more about the stage technology, and especially the whole shoot mechanism that is so integral to this show. But we'll have to ask our audience to come and see it for themselves and see if they can figure out how it's done.
Sure.
So it's been our pleasure. Thanks so much, Jim Wren, for being here, first of all, in Lubbock, and for coming and appearing on the Art Beat and telling us about the upcoming production of Sweeney Todd, opening on campus April 16th.
Thanks so much. Look forward to seeing you in the theater.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. The Art Beat, a weekly program putting you in touch with artists and arts events from the J.T. and Margaret Talkington College of Visual and Performing Arts at Texas Tech University.